Okay, it's mid-March. I think it's the 11th. Yes, it is the 11th of March, and it's not mid-March. That would be the Ides of March, isn't it? It's the 11th of March of 2018, and it's only just a few minutes ago that I made the first video, but I feel to quickly get on to a second video, and then I'll add. Oh, no promises. I'll add them as they're made. I thought I'd just make this one about that judgment. I mentioned judgment in the last one because we're all going to die, and I don't raise that in a morbid way at all. I raise that in a sensible, responsible way, because think about it like this. We're going to have dinner tonight. I'm not going to make it, and I'm not even going to ask for a certain recipe or anything like that. But whoever is, I suspect they've already planned it, and they've already determined they've got the right gear and how much to make and that sort of stuff. And that's just a meal, and we have those every day, and yet this planning goes into that. And I know you can give example after example in your life of stuff that you plan for, and some of it more important than others. But question for you: what could be more important than where you're going to spend eternity? And then second question, how much planning have you done for that? And you could just dismiss that notion as you've got no say over it, Tom, and you can't know anything about it. And I have to disagree on both of those, because God says very differently on that. And he says it in his Bible, and you might then say, well, I don't even trust the Bible. Why trust the Bible? That's the point of another video. I don't want to do that now, but let me just say I totally trust it. I believe, and I believe I can prove it to you, that it's worth believing every word that's in it, that it is all very accurate. In fact, it's written by a God who cannot lie, he says in there. And it's not written by men, so all the lies that get around the world about that. But anyway, I'll talk to you about that another day. So this eternity, the Bible talks about basically two locations. In Matthew chapter 7, you can read about how Jesus talks about this life, like as if it's two roads, and the roads have destinations that they're heading to. And he talks about a narrow road, and he talks about a wide road. And he says most people find that broad road or that wide road, and it's the road that he says leads to destruction. And in other places he talks about that destruction, and he gives it different names, but it's what he's talking about is post this life, after we pass over from this life into whatever comes next, which the first thing that comes is the judgment. But then the judgment, there is after the judgment is the sentence. Well, the judgment itself is a sentence. You go there or you go there, and so that's coming. And then he says there is this narrow road, and it's a hard road, he said, and few people find that one. But that's the way that leads to eternal life, he says, or to life, he says. And the context shows he was talking about eternal life. So we have these two options according to Jesus, and he says about those options that most choose the broad way that goes to destruction, and few choose the narrow way. When I first read that some years ago now, I said to Jesus, that's horrible. You got to do something about it. Most people are going to end up in that horrible place, in suffering destruction. And he said, I did do something about it. Now you go do something about it. And I have been. I now have been doing something about that for years, and I'll tell you about that in other videos too. But right now, what I'm doing is telling you, and that's part of what he came to do, was to tell us truth and give us an opportunity to hear truth and to believe truth and let that affect our lives. And so we can plan not just on guesswork or philosophies, but we can plan on reality, plan on facts. And I want to tell you that my life in the world has been a dealer in facts. my training is in science, in particular in physics, and the words like proof and evidence and testing are all words that are very familiar to me, and they are comfortable ways of thinking for me. And so I'm not talking about guesswork here, and I'm not talking about idealism or philosophies. I'm talking about facts that I have tested and proven and hope to unfold to you throughout these videos. But the question I just want to look at right now is those two roads or those two destinies, and they happen. That's the two choice. They are the two choices or two options that are for us after this life. And who plans for that? You know, some of us plan for the death itself. You know, like they get insurance for covering their funeral and stuff like that, and that's very kind, I suppose, toward their families. But God has very deliberately been urging us to get ready for this, to plan for this, because that judgment is an encounter with God. We're going to stand and give an account before him, and it's going to be about sin. He will not, as I said in the first video, let sin come into his presence. And if you've hung on to sin and clung to it and let it define your life, and so you've come to this judgment day and you're still a sinner, you're on the broad road, because that is what most people will choose to do. I know my flesh still, when I let it for a moment have its own way, immediately starts to think that way or get drawn that way, or so I keep my flesh under, as the Bible urges me to do. I'll tell you about that another day. So I wish you were here, because if you were here I'd look you in the eye, but I feel really weird looking at a camera. Anyway, got that off my chest. So this planning is, he gives us the information, he gives us the facts, he alerts us that there's going to be this judgment and that there are only the two outcomes, and he tells us what he wants. He wants us to come be with him, and he describes that in wonderful terms of joy and no tears and everything it seems like people are looking for here, we actually get the real deal of there. Those few who go there, those few who choose to go there, because there is a condition. You have to be clean, you have to be holy, you have to be like God. And that's a miracle, because you can't do that yourself. That's something that he does. I'll tell you about that in another video when I talk to you about being born again. In fact, I might do that one next after this one, but we'll see. I just want to tell you about the importance of planning for it and thinking about it, because it's going to happen. One thing that's 100% guarantee is we're all going to die. And according to the Bible, which I totally trust, I trust that even more than my senses, in fact a lot more than my senses. I'm told there that we are going to then, after that death, which is a guarantee, we're going to have a judgment, which is a guarantee, and it'll be one of these two places. And I know where I want to go, and frankly I know where everybody wants to go. Nobody wants to go to hell. People joke about it. And so many of the people that I talk with about Jesus, and all they've got in response is mockery, and often that mockery takes the form of they want to go to hell, and they talk about that, but they don't know what hell is. And I think there might be one or two insane people who actually do enjoy suffering, and there's something wrong there, but you know, I've heard about it. I've never seen people like that, but I've heard about them. And but even though I don't think would want that forever, with no escape possible, which is what that place of destruction's all about. The Bible talks about torment rising, the smoke of their torment rising forever. It talks about a great amount of ongoing activity, all associated with suffering. And I might talk about that another time in another video, some detail about that, particularly if anybody wants that and lets me know. I might give some more detail about that. But as I read the Bible, I see enough in there to just a small smattering to convince me I don't want anything to do with that. And I love what God has put on offer and how easy he has made it to receive it. So that's what I wanted to tell you about. I just wanted to let you know there is a choice to be made. There is planning to be made for that post-death option. You don't have a third option. There is no sleep forever. You don't exist anymore. You're just crumbs in the ground. I hope to prove that to you over time, but for the moment I'm keeping these videos as short as I can, and in time I hope to expand on those, particularly if I'm prompted to do so by somebody who wants me to give some more information or something. Don't feel I've tried to prove anything right now. You know, you can throw back your argument. I hope you do. I love it if you do, and we'll enter into some of the proof that. But until we really exhaust something, there's I want to tell you there's lots and lots of stuff to be put to you about these topics I'm raising with you. Bless you guys. I hope you'll watch at least one more video, and we'll see where we go from there.